most people aren't aware. The people who are experiencing lack of consent and the people who are doing the coercion, they may not understand fully. But once you understand, then you realize, hey, that wasn't okay to do. Hey, that was manipulative. Hey, once I said no, that should have been it. But we don't think about that a lot of times because we aren't educated on it. But one of the ones that I can think of, some where it ended with sexual activity and others that didn't. One in particular that stands out to me is when I was around 23 years old. I was talking on the phone with this guy who I was introduced to by another friend of mine. And we were talking on the phone late at night. We started talking sexual, nothing that was directed towards him. I think he asked me about, if I was aroused, and I agreed, yes, I'm aroused. He asked me my favorite position. I told him my favorite position, but it wasn't directed to him. I was just going along with the conversation. So, and I'll touch back on, my thought process after the fact.
Mhm.
But fast forward, I end up finally meeting him. He was throwing a party at his home. And so he invited me. I came over. I was only with the public in the public area for only a short period of time before he led me to another room, letting me know, hey, let's go to this other room that's more quiet. And for the fellas who are listening, that is also a form of coercion, because when you are pulling a person out of a public space and putting them into a more private space, that can be very intimidating for and scary for a woman. I know that people may not understand that it looks like that, but when we think about the full scope of things, that's exactly what it can lead to. So once he led me to the room, I think I went to the restroom to wash my hands or something. And so when I came back out, next thing I know, his penis was out. He ain't asked me nothing. He didn't give me no context clues. He literally just pulled his penis out. And so at this time, I'm like, sir, that's not the type of party. That's not the type of that I'm on right now.
Yeah.
But he mentioned, oh, well, when we had that conversation the other day, I thought that you wanted to do something with me. And so from then on, I became more cautious about the type of conversations that I had with men, being super open, because I used to be so open because I thought that was so cool to be honest and upfront, not realizing that people can actually use those things against you, or it can give them the wrong perception.
Wow. So thank you for sharing that, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of guys, and I'm glad you shared that, because for the men who are listening, um, just to give them an idea, and we're going to kind of talk about that a little later too.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a guest on the other day, and we were talking about touch. And she was saying how a lot of men growing up when they were boys, they were never like touched in a healthy way where they had love and affection.
Mm-hmm.
There it is, and by the time they got older, they just thought that if I touch a woman, it just leads into sex, because now if I got
Right.
affection, you
And
know what I'm
she
saying?
lets me that it's okay,
Right.
not knowing what's going through that woman's head at that moment in time. She could be thinking, "Oh my gosh, if I tell him no," because we see all the time. Just even simply not giving a man your phone number, what that can turn into. So just think about the fear when you guys are away from everybody and alone together, how much pressure that can put on a woman unknowingly.
Yeah, that's happening
And
too.
it's not just women. I mean, not just men. Don't it's women too that that don't require, that don't ask for consent from men too. But it's just a lot more prominent when it comes to men, because men are more in pursuit of sex than women are.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, there was a time, and this was, some years ago, I was single. I remember I was talking to this girl, and we were talking for a little while, was like, okay, we're gonna connect, we're gonna spend some time together, like, get this hotel room. So, like this is the whole game plan. We go over
Mm-hmm.
the whole game plan. And I get the room and we pick it, go to the hotel room, and in my head, of course, I'm only thinking one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what she was thinking, no. So that night, I asked her, I'm trying to get physical with her and touch her and all this other stuff. And she was like, I don't feel like it tonight. And I was like, oh, oh, like, okay. Like I was taken aback. I'm thinking like I got the room. To me, in my 19, 20-year-old mind, I'm like, this is a green light
Right.
in my head, right?
An assumption. Mm-hmm.
Right, an assumption. And not blaming anybody, but the era I grew up in, hip hop and the 90s and all this other stuff, I'm just assuming that this one thing. And when she told me no, the minute she told me no, I was like, you know what? Okay.
Right. And to alleviate that, that can always be a discussion beforehand. I know it's people scared of that. People are so scared of just being, if you want it, you need to ask. Things are not just going to be thrown to you on a platter because you don't know what type of consequences could come in that space. So, just hey, so I know we're going. I'm flying you out because we know that that happens too. I'm flying you out, and I want to have intercourse with you. Are you okay with that? But the gray area is that a person can still refuse even after they say yes. So I do recommend that all people watch this. It's a YouTube video called A Cup of Tea, where it identifies uh sex as tea instead, just to kind of make it easier for people to understand. So they'll mention like if somebody said that they wanted a cup of tea yesterday and you gave it to them, it doesn't mean that they want a cup of tea the next day. Just because somebody stirred the pot, heated the kettle up, put the tea in and all that stuff, they can decide that they don't want no longer want the tea. So there's so many barriers. Just because somebody slept with you the night before doesn't mean they have to sleep with you the next night. That don't mean it gives you the right to just pull your thing out and everything is gonna be okay. Um, just because somebody sent you pictures or spoke sexually to you, it does not mean that's the green light to move forward. Um, what's another one? It's so many it's so many different descriptions of what not to do. Even too, like when it comes to having intercourse, telling your partner or lying to your partner saying that, oh, I'm allergic to condoms or stuff like that. All of that is coercion. Like because you're trying to either manipulate or change the situation in order for the person to give in or feel comfortable, even though it's lined with deceit.
Yes. Totally agree. Such a sensitive topic,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the culture that we live in,
Yes.
you know.
Because when I saw the video that I reacted to from that reel that you saw, the comments from the men were just so disgusting. But it's because it's ignorance. Like you just don't have the level of understanding to see that it does not matter if a woman likes you. That does not mean that she has to sleep with you. Because the first thing they'll say, well, why are you around men you don't like? Most of the time when women are coerced into sex, it's with men that they want to be with. And that actually what makes it harder to say no because you don't want them to sleep with somebody else. You don't want them to leave you. You don't want them to feel like you don't care. So you may go above and past your boundaries just to please them. And it don't make you a hoe either. It just mean that you like the man.
Mhm. Yeah, because and you know what? Now that I think about this, because as I hear you talk, I'm thinking about that. I said, there was this is what gave me the quote unquote green light to think that I was actually gonna have sex with this lady, right? I
Mm-hmm.
remember probably about 6 months earlier, me and my friend, we kicking it. he have some female friends, um, and we go hang out, and we go in our separate cars, and this girl, I go over her house. First time, meeting her, and we know each other one night. You know what I'm saying? One night. I'm As a youngster, I'm just making this assumption like, oh, it's going down tonight
Mm-hmm.
because I'm going over her house. And we didn't have that conversation. It was just implied that it's 12:30, 1 o'clock at night.
But that's what your mama say. Ain't nothing open but legs after 12. So it's a warning, but it's not an excuse,
Exactly.
right? It is.
Exactly. And I'm young and ignorant, but
Mm-hmm.
that set me up. Well, I mean, I knew what I was doing, but
Mm-hmm.
that set me up for the next time I got to hang with another woman. In my mind,
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that this is a green light instead of us having that conversation. And so I made that assumption going to the next girl. And when she told me no, I was surprised because
Mm-hmm.
I assumed that because I slept with this other girl 6 months earlier,
Yeah.
that it was going to happen the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wrong on me because, again, like you said, we didn't talk about that.
Right.
I was just raised enough to know that when a woman says no, you just back off.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it like again, it's a level of understanding, and once you know, as long as you choose to educate other people and also, choose to do things differently, that's all that really matters, It's it again, with everybody, we don't I don't teach this until the kids reach, 10th, 11th grade. So who knows what information they've gained from their parents, their uncles, their siblings, other kids, and which makes it actually harder for the kids to digest the information because they've seen and heard differently. So that's another thing that needs to be considered. Like, what type of influences have they already had previously before they get to me?
Yeah. Wow.
But I usually scare them with going to with different stories about men going to jail for certain things, just to kind of give them an idea, like, yeah, you may think that it's cool, yeah, you may think you have game, but this same type of game will put you in jail. So, and I tell everybody, a lot of game that men say that they have is coercion.
Yeah, it
It
is.
is.
Yeah, it's not.
Lying, telling a woman you love them is coercion, and you don't mean it, that is coercion. Telling the woman you want her to have your baby, that is coercion. Telling the woman you're gonna pay her bills if she does something, that is coercion.
Woo. All right. This is, yeah. This
Because
is,
you're putting them in a, and again, like, it all depends on the woman. It all depends on how the woman feels about it too. It has to be something that is mutual. That I'll say that it has to be a mutual thing where both parties feel comfortable within the situation.